This week on the OneCast, we're joined by Toyota Series angler Nick Kincaid. We're going to talk about Carolina Waters, who he's part owner in, and how to be a successful co-angler.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What is going on, the OneCast fans? Welcome back for another week. This week we're joined in studio. I know Ben looks a little weird here sitting to my left, but no, this week we're joined by Nick Kincaid, fishes Toyota Series. Ben is joining us remotely. He was waiting on a delivery of some stuff and it ran late, so he couldn't be here with us, but he's calling in from the house. So we're going to talk to Nick about Carolina Waters, who you all heard us talk about. We're going to talk about being a successful co-angler. He's got a few years fishing the Toyota Series. As always, make sure you head to onecastfishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word, at checkout to save some money. Also, head over there and check out our merch, which is live. If you click on the OneCast tab, there's also a link in the description below that'll take you straight to our page on the website there. We have shirts and hats available, maybe. They could be gone by the time this episode comes out. I don't know for sure, but it is a limited deal. So make sure you get over there and check them out. I'm going to go on a little rant here before we get going. I got to get something off my chest, but I'm going to give Trey. You got anything you want to talk about?
I know exactly what you're going to talk about. Yeah. No, man, appreciate you joining us, Nick. And Ben, too bad he can't be here, but hey, at least you got 375 feet of bubble wrap sitting in your garage, so that's all good. No, hey, we always talk about it every episode, but, head on over to some of our 501c3 partners, heroesharvest.org, FX3, Inc., Special Operations Bass Anglers, For His Glory Outdoors. All these organizations are providing great opportunities for veterans to get some of that outdoor therapy that's much needed. I can promise you that right now. So head on over there, support those guys. And then if you're still, if the fundraiser is still going on, head over to the fundraiser that we talked about with Maddie Wong to help that family out of Lahaina out. They lost everything in a fire. Those donations will be greatly appreciated. They go directly to the family. And yeah, I'm excited, man. Yeah. I'm ready to talk fishing, but I am definitely ready to hear what's about to come out of your mouth.
Well, first, I'm glad you reminded me of that. The link is below for the GoFundMe. If you're able to make a donation to that, please do. But also, our partners over at Carolina Waters for the month of October have graciously decided that anybody that makes an order using our code, the OneCast, through the month of October, they're going to donate 20% of that sale to that GoFundMe. So as you know, we're doing a giveaway if you donate, or now if you do make an order through Carolina Waters, screenshot that. Send it over to our socials or to the email, which I have below, and let us know with a screenshot. Then I'll get you entered. I know I've got a few already. So make sure you get on that. We're going to do a hat, a shirt of our stuff. And then Fox. Wow. Swamp Fox. You think I would know because I got a bunch of their stuff. Swamp Fox Customs is donating some baits, some hard baits and soft plastics to throw in on that giveaway also. So make sure you go over and like their page and check them out. Make sure you get your Carolina Waters gear and use the code TheOneCast. We're going to talk about them more, so there'll be plenty more to come on that. Ben, you have anything before I go on a rant?
Well, I'm quite intrigued now about this rant, and unfortunately, because I had to wait on all that bubble wrap, I don't know what you're going to talk about. So
Trey knows because he was there.
Mr. Positivity here.
This will be interesting.
It is. Yeah.
But I will say, wish I could be up there. I'm glad we're having Nick on finally. We've been talking about it for quite a while, but it finally worked out for everyone to join, and everyone's in studio but me, unfortunately. But I will say, I know Pete's already plugged to go use their code and all, but wearing these shirts right now, they're super comfortable. So I think Trey's got one on too. So
Nick almost wore it.
Yeah, you can swap them out there. But, obviously Nick, Carolina Waters, they support us and we like supporting them back there too. And we can get into it later. But with that said, go on your rant. I want to hear this thing.
So, let me preface this real quick. Feelings may get hurt.
Oh, feelings are going to get hurt.
Feelings may get hurt, but this is all about conservation.
And if this hurts your feelings, you deserve to have them hurt.
I know where this is going now.
Yep.
So Trey and I fished the lake. It's about an hour and 20 minutes from us this weekend. And there was a club that had a tournament there. And it's fall, so fish are still spread out all over the place. Quite a few of the guys in the tournament were fishing offshore pretty deep. This lake sets up, especially now with no thermocline, there's a good chance they were catching fish in 50, 60 foot of water, depending on how the bait was set up. I didn't check any of those areas because literally their club, they would have 3 boats sitting on every one of those ledge spots. So the plan was to beat the way and get out of there. Trey left probably 30 minutes before I did. I found another creek that I wanted to run and got a bunch of bites in it. So I fished that. And then I got back to the ramp to take out right as they were probably, I don't know, halfway through their weigh-in. And there were fish floating belly up, struggling everywhere on that ramp. It was disgusting. 4, 5, 6 pound bass, swim bladders bloated. Some of them starting to come out of their anus. I don't know what the technical term on a bass is. I'm guessing it's anus. So that's what we're going with. So I went around and netted the ones that I thought had a shot, put them in my live well, and was fizzing them, trying to get them back. At the end of the day, I was able to save one. That was it. So probably 50, I was guessing 50 pounds of fish dead. This isn't a big lake. I'm not going to say the name of the lake because it doesn't need any more pressure than it's getting now. And if people are going to keep killing fish, I don't want anybody to know to fish it. If you are going to tournament fish and you are going to fish tournaments with a live weigh-in where there is water, where you're going to catch them deep and there's a chance for bear trauma. Now, bear trauma can happen anywhere, but typically it's in those deeper depths. And you do not know how to properly fizz a fish, stop fishing tournaments because you're killing fish. Fin clips don't work. Fizzing them through the mouth does not work. Learn how to properly fizz fish. Buy a proper fizz kit. There's a ton of information out there. You can message me at any time and ask. Barb Elliott, who I tag in all of my stuff when it comes to fizzing fish, she is the one who's basically created the education program for BASS all the way up to the elites. She goes to all the elite events in New York and fizzes those smallmouth, and they have over a 96% survival rate, I believe. And some of those guys are catching fish in 40, 50 feet of water. You have to fizz those fish. They cannot ride around belly up all day in your live well, and you think they're going to, they're going to die. And if you release them knowing they're going to die, it's wanton waste. If somebody, we have a lot of listeners in Virginia, if you were fishing that club, you're probably never going to get another permit on that lake because I have the state involved. You don't need to come down here and destroy a resource. It's absolutely ridiculous and it's irresponsible because you didn't even try. And there were some of you on the dock that were laughing at me netting fish. They needed fizzed. If they're bellied up, they need fizzed. I know what they need, and that's why I was doing it. You didn't do it, and you killed those fish, and you knew you killed those fish.
Dude, man,
optics wise, no, my GoPro died. I didn't get it on GoPro. It was one of, and I didn't even think to take pictures, man. I was so mad.
Yeah, I almost
was just trying to. Yeah, I know. I was so mad, and I was just trying to save fish, man. Because
I got you.
Like the number of 4 and 5 pound fish that were floating belly up was terrible. The only good thing for optics was the only people that saw it were other fishermen. Like, thank goodness it wasn't a busy summer day where you got a bunch of people and their families, because we have enough, man. PETA, everybody, they want to stop tournament fishing, right? They talk about how hard it is on the resource, and for the most part, we do a really good job, but they did not do a good job. And a little birdie told me that the same club did a similar thing at Gaston and killed a whole bunch of fish in a tournament, weighing in the exact same way. So if you're listening, you don't know how to fizz, Barb Elliott on Facebook, look her up. Go to my personal page, Pete Shandrick, look me up, find her under my friends, send her a message. She sells the kit super cheap. The kit comes with full illustrations. When you order it, she's going to message you and give you her phone number and tell you if you're on the water and you're struggling, FaceTime me and I will walk you through fizzing the fish. Just be responsible. If you're going to do it, be responsible, because it's not good. The lake that it happened on, this is the second time a club has done this year. I know the first one was a North Carolina club, and they won't get another permit because a bunch of the locals were there and saw it and turned them into the state. I think some of them guys got fined because they got boat registration numbers and everything. So just be responsible. We have a responsibility, like Trey said, conservation. Nick can talk to it about how the Toyotas do it when we get into that.
Yep.
We have a responsibility if we make a decision to use the resource in this way, to go out and fish tournaments, and then you kill 5 and 6 pounders. And what makes me the most upset, I had to stop myself there. You're the same people that are going to go in a Facebook group and freak out when somebody keeps a bass to eat, but you have no problem belly up in a fish and letting it go at a weigh-in.
You know,
Amen.
That's all I got.
So no, it's good. And so the narrative here is it's not just it's a culmination of the above. It's conservation. It's a lens that we're perceived through with, you know, environmentalists and things like that. It's, you know, and what drives me nuts the most is it's 2023. Our cyber world is saturated with education. So if you're not willing to go on to ncwildlife.org, it literally has fish care and a link that you can click on that takes you to exactly how to fish a fish. I want to say it's Barb Elliott stuff, but regardless, it's associated with BASS. So it is Barb Elliott stuff, but there's YouTube videos. You watch them all the time. I want to learn how to tie a Palomar knot. Well, guess what? Learn how to fizz a fish. Right. So we are saturated with education out there.
And
take the time to
don't work.
Yeah, fin clips, just keep them upright until you dump them back in the water, and then they'll go belly up, and then they'll die, right?
Yeah.
And you can see, like, there's signs and symptoms of stress with a fish. They start turning red fin, all that stuff, you know, there's signs and symptoms. So as much as you want to be educated on how to fish offshore or use forward-facing sonar or whatever, educate yourself on the conservation aspect, right? Carry a trash bag with you, clean up your trash. There's all sorts of stuff. So, it's a ramp, but it's a needed ramp, right?
So, and the biggest issue there was those fish were so stressed there was no saving them. I was able to get their swim bladders deflated, but at that point, I mean, their entire mouths were bright red, the fins were red, gill plates were red. The amount of stress on that fish, there's no way you're going to save that fish. Some of them I tried putting G juice. I've heard if you pour that into their gullet and let them ride in a live well with the oxygenator for a little bit, sometimes they'll recover. And it didn't do anything. The biggest one, I should have put it on a scale after the fact, but I had to get out of there before Chelsea had words, and I got in a fist fight with a bunch of Virginia boys in a parking lot. The biggest one, I spent 20 minutes trying to revive it after I got it fizzed, just with my arm in the water under its belly supporting it. And I had her drive the boat to make sure I was getting a bunch of oxygen across his gills. And
another point to that is, what are they teaching their kids?
Yeah,
that's right.
You know, we have a younger generation that's coming up, and we're wanting to push, you know, them to be outdoors and not even fishing, hunting, just camping, just get the kids outside doing stuff. And, you know, when they're looking up to their dad or their uncle or, you know, friends and stuff like that, and they see them doing this, well, they don't know any better.
No,
you know, they're starting off on the wrong foot already.
Yeah.
And people can say, well, you know, there's a million fish in the sea. Well, there might be, but you keep doing this to these lakes and you're not going to have, but, you know, pound and a halfers.
Yeah. And you make a great point. You know, I wonder if they ever created the creel limits off of these creel limits are so old that we have, right? These laws have been around for a long time. I don't think they really anticipated guys and gals going out there and targeting some of the biggest fish in the lake. These are the laws a lot of times are created after bank fishermen and guys just going out recreationally fishing, catch to eat. But tournament anglers have a unique ability to target very, very large fish. And when you start killing off those bloodlines, you will have a serious impact on a body of water, right? Oh, yeah. And so, like, even if you are a club that kills fish, and I used to be a part of this where, like, we have fish that come to the scales that are dead. There's ways to donate those fish and cook those fish up and reuse those fish, not just dump them back in the lake, right? They can use them for fertilizer and all that stuff, because you have the right. It's the law. You have the right to catch 5 over 14 inches, and different lakes are different laws, but you don't have the right to dump them back in the water dead, right? And what's that called?
They're going to die. Wanton waste.
Wanton waste, right? So, like, even if you're not going to eat them, I don't know, man, just don't do that. So
I can tell you right now, in our club, we fish a lot at the Roanoke River, and there are a couple ladies that are there every weekend.
Yep.
Wanting their dead fish so that they can eat for the weekend.
There you go.
Yep.
You know, and it's stuff like that, soup kitchens,
yep.
Things of that nature. I mean, we need to take better care. Now, I realize every once in a while you will get one that dies. It happens.
Yep.
But yeah, if we don't start taking care of our resources better, our grandkids or great grandkids might not have it.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So let's talk fishing. Right? Ben, first let's let Nick introduce himself. Nick, introduce yourself to everybody. I kind of took over the beginning there.
Yeah,
I want to make sure everybody knows who you are.
Nick Kincaid. I live in Siler City, North Carolina, and I love to fish, man. I love being outside. Didn't really get into tournament fishing until probably 2015. Even though I grew up in Michigan, it's one thing me and Trey got in common there. We did a lot of fun fishing, pan fishing. Love to eat fish. And then, so 2015 started in with a club, and 2-3 years later became president of the club, Carolina Bassers, right here in Sanford. So, we're just out fishing, trying to win a little bit of money, even though it's harder than most people think, but really the camaraderie and everything that comes with it is probably the best part about everything.
When did you start fishing the Toyotas?
2020.
Okay.
Yeah. 2020. Friend of mine said he was going to start fishing them and as a boater and would like a link. So asked me if I was up for it. And I said, sure, why not? I had the time, the money to do it. So we might as well go ahead and do it. And didn't really set any goals really. Being that first year, just wanted to learn some stuff, and ended up 2020. I ended up in 36th place. Cashed a check my first tournament, so that was pretty exciting. And 3 years later, I've cashed a check every year. Last year I was in 26th place overall, and this year I ended up in 35th place overall.
Yeah, but that's out of like hundreds and hundreds of people.
This year it was out of 352.
Yeah.
So if I could ever get around to figuring out Okeechobee, it would be so much better. Fished there last year and this year. This year I think I ended in 110th.
Ooh.
So out of 280, I think there was.
Yeah.
So that's always been my little Achilles heel. But it's fun being able to fish Florida in March and April.
That's right.
When it's still cold.
It's really funny that you say that, because it seems like a lot of guys and gals that haven't grown up in Florida or fished it most of their lives struggle with Florida. It's like we think as anglers like Florida's the Mecca, right? But there's so many people that go down there and struggle. Even Elite Series guys who have won a ton of tournaments, but they're like, man, I got to survive the 2 Florida.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to think that. But I mean, I've never personally fished Florida. I know Ben went down there and learned a lot a couple years ago. I'm planning to get down there for a work trip this year that just might run through a weekend.
Well, I'll tell you what, hit the Harris chain.
I think that's where I'm going to hit.
You got so many lakes to choose from, and they can be in so many different, areas doing different things. This year at the Harris chain, it was one on bedfish as far as boater wise, but I caught a lot of fish on a drop shot and a wacky rig.
Pete's favorite bait.
Yeah. No.
But I mean, you just get on that grass line, throw that wacky rig down there, pop it once or twice, and they would just come screaming out.
So you're from Michigan.
Yes.
Do you and I said this a lot because you see a lot of northern anglers do well in Florida, traditionally speaking, right? Of course, Bobby Lane's going to whack them in Florida on Toho and stuff like that. Your Christian Gracos are good down there. Your Mike
Greco's good everywhere.
He is. He is.
He is.
But a lot like the Johnstons do typically well in Florida, like on the Elite Series. A lot of the northern guys. Do you feel like the Okeechobees and the Harris? Well, let's not use Okeechobee. Let's use Harris chain, Kissimmee chain, stuff like that. Do you feel like they relate similar to a lot of the vegetation that we have in the north, like those
definitely.
waters? Yeah.
Especially more towards last year on Harris chain. They started killing the grass again down there. But luckily what they're doing is they're not doing all the lakes.
There's sections.
Yeah, they're doing sections, and they're doing like one lake last year, one lake this year, and stuff like that. So Apopka, which is where the winners came out of this year, they actually were starting to kill the grass there. Big Harris didn't have any grass.
Yeah.
And last year when we went, it was chock full of grass. I mean, you're dragging a 10-inch worm on a Texas rig or throwing a chatterbait.
Trey's favorite bait.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm telling you, they were whacking them. The wind picks up, you just throw a 5/8 out chatterbait, and all you're doing was taking it off the top of the grass right there, and they would come on and smoke it. So
yeah, I thought it was interesting because Ben went down there. I went down to Toho this year and fished a veterans charity tournament. I guess it's called Help Our Heroes with Mike Johns, and I haven't fished aquatic vegetation like that since I left Michigan a long time ago. But for me, like, I don't know, it just felt easy to fish. Like, again, I know Florida is hit or miss, but the one thing that did happen is when we launched out of Toho for practice, we didn't launch in Toho for the tournament. I can't remember where we launched. It was some weird place, but so the first day we practiced, all good. We were whacking them. The second day, those boats were out there spraying, and it stank so bad. It was so nasty. And we're like, nope, we're not fishing up here now. And I want to say it actually was one out of either Cypress or Toho, but it was so nasty smelling. I was like, dude, I don't want to fish up here. It's nasty, dude.
Yeah. I'll tell you real quick, my first tournament was at Toho.
Yeah.
Got to cut a check, and my claim for that one, my day one boater was JT Tompkins, which is leading the Angler of the Year points right now
for EQ.
And my day two boater was the reigning Rookie of the Year, Joey.
Oh wow!
So
you had some pretty good instructors.
Yeah. JT smoked me with a jerkbait. Yeah, I mean, just there's nothing. He had two limits, and finally he's looking at me. He's like, "Do you have this color jerkbait?" I'm like, "No." He reaches in his box, takes one, throws it, says, "Here, tie this on." First cast, boom, got one. Boy, there we
That's
go.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
What were you throwing, a jerkbait?
Yes.
It was
Wrong
just the
color.
color.
It's not the right color.
Wrong color.
Unbelievable.
Color doesn't matter till it does.
Yeah, we'll talk offline.
Color doesn't matter. Yeah, he ain't gonna give that juice. No, but
And you said, Nick, that was on that was on Toho.
On Toho, yeah.
That's the
Ben's
one.
taking notes.
Yeah, because that's the one. That's still my bucket list. That's the one I haven't been to. I've been to Okeechobee and the Harris Chain, and we were fishing offshore.
And the grass was probably 4 to 5 feet below the surface.
Oh yeah, perfect for a shallow crank.
How deep was how deep were you? Like depth water?
6 8 foot.
I'm guessing it was probably 8 to 10.
Okay,
somewhere in there.
So super deep for Florida.
Yeah. And then, you can also take what others are doing, a floating worm. Does great because you can skim over the top. And then when you'll see the pockets to where there's no grass, and just let that sucker float down there and hang on.
Hang on, because it's getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, what's the deepest you fished? Oh, like 10 foot. That pretty much narrows down where you need to look on Toho because it ain't that deep. So, but it is a fun place to fish.
I was surprised when I went down the Harris Chain for those couple weeks, how much offshore fishing I ended up doing. And I went during February. And so, especially on the Harris Chain, unless they're up spawning, go back and watch a lot of the MLF, the FLW, the Bassmaster tournaments. Whenever they go there, there's always some fish spawning somewhere on the lake during that time.
Mm-hmm.
But unless it's the major big wave that they all seem to move up and down at the same time across most of the lakes, a lot of the tournaments have been won in 12, 15 foot of water out there on the Harris Chain, just fishing that grass out there.
I'll tell you, Beauclair is a great place. If you guys go back down there, it's just before you get to Apopka. But if they're spawning, that you can throw
Anything.
Yeah. I mean, a Carolina rig, and when I think of offshore, I'm thinking, offshore it's deep. Well, it's not, it's 10, 12 feet deep and you bomb cast a Carolina rig or a Texas rig out there and you just drag it and you'll know when you come across the bed because they're very aggressive.
Yeah. So. That's interesting. So you got into tournament fishing, you said relatively later in life, like 2015, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was with Carolina Bassers.
Yep.
I point because we got their giant logo over here. Curtis, that's Pete's placement. So you started fishing in 15 and you joined the Toyotas as a co in 20. What was your reason for not joining it as a boater?
Not having a boat.
Okay. I asked that because I mean,
not having a boat and the money wise, a co-angler for the Toyotas is $550 a tournament.
Okay.
You get to fish all 3 days. That's the difference between the Toyotas and the Opens. So you fish all 3 days. A boater, I believe, is $1,750. And with not knowing anything about Florida waters, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the main reason not having a boat.
Well, I was going to ask you because even if you had a boat,
if I did have a boat, I don't know if I would have done it yet.
Okay.
Just for not having, being responsible for somebody else in your boat that you don't know, now if it was, somewhere around here, maybe, actually around here, I probably would have, I've never fished a BFL. And people look at me like, why would you jump straight to the Toyotas? Just, to me, it was just something to do.
Yeah.
I was asked to, help out and go down there. So that's what I did.
And how much are the BFL events for co?
BFLs for a co is only $100.
Yeah. So that is a significant more amount. There's less of them, I think. But when you start thinking,
there are three Toyotas compared to 5 BFLs, but the payout is
much bigger.
Much bigger. Yeah.
Payout's much better. And I would think if you're going down the route that you're also using that to learn and hopefully fish with some bigger sticks. I mean, you already talked about it. I mean, your co's were Joey and JT Tompkins, right? Who's going to be on the elites next year.
Yeah. And last year I made the Toyota championship, and my day one boater, I call him a kid because I think he is a kid, but was Trey McKinney. McKinney. So
he's second in AOI.
Yeah, I mean
the EQs,
and he's a phenomenal kid. I know I keep calling him kid. He's a young man.
He's like 18 and a half years old. I mean, he's a kid. Come on now.
But I mean, he's been he was homeschooled, and he loves to fish.
Yep.
And I mean, if you look at his resume, being 18 years old,
I met him.
Unbelievable.
I met him in 2018 for the first time at ICAST, and I met him and his coach, and I can't remember his coach's name, but he's a former Elite Series guy back when it was the 150s or the 75s or something. It'd been a while. But Trey at that time, so that was 19, so it's 23. He was, I think, 15 years old, and he had just won his 9th boat in a BFL.
Nick, that was interesting when you said that people kind of look at you funny, like, because you haven't fished any BFLs at all. But I just want to kind of reiterate the point. But like when you start thinking from an education perspective and who you've been able to fish with, and look at the cost difference a little bit. Yeah, you're paying more money, but you're learning. I would imagine you've learned a whole lot more than you hop on one of these BFLs and someone drives you around and they have no fish to catch whatsoever.
Oh yeah,
that happens all the time.
You got, in fishing around here. I would, if you're new to fishing, don't just jump into an Open or the Toyota Series.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll tell you is if you are a a boater, you own your own boat, you're used to it, you will not like jumping in as a co in an open or a Toyota series. Yep. You just won't do it. You don't get to make the decisions. You might not be able to even make a cast to the juice at all. For instance, I've fished with a guy in 2 tournaments now, and he's a great fisherman, but one of the lakes, it was all about forward facing sonar and brush piles. We would pull up, he'd make a couple casts. If he didn't get the fish he wanted, that trolling motor was going up, and I better be sitting down because we're rolling. You don't even get a cast at it. So, and I know some guys are like, well, I would cast that. You don't. Etiquette, you do not, as a co, you do not throw towards the front of the boat.
Yeah, there's kind of that unwritten rule.
Well, yeah, let's talk about some of those unwritten
but
rules.
Real quick before we get into that, so you used the term link. Then that's how you got involved, and I'm sure a lot of folks out there don't understand what a link is for like the Opens do it as well, and
the
BFLs,
yep.
And the Toyota. So could you just kind of explain what that means for somebody that might be interested?
Yeah. So your link, when you link with somebody, it's boater with a co-angler. Now that doesn't mean that you fish with that person. That just means that you are guaranteed a spot to fish. So there's a lot of guys. If you go on the different Facebook pages, they will say, hey, I'm a co, I'm looking for a link. Is there any boaters out there that need somebody? Now that doesn't mean you got to stay with them, pre-fish with them or anything like that. It just guarantees your spot that you're going to be able to fish. If you don't do that, you get put on the waiting list. So with the waiting list, if you're one of the first guys that registered for that, and there's 5 boaters that don't have a link, those first 5 go up there. And then if you don't get on, you're kind of stuck until somebody drops. And somebody in the championship, somebody dropped out the night before. And the next guy that was in line, he was like 14 hours away. He's like, I can't even make it there in time to fish it, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, linking for that stuff. And I believe I don't know if it's like that with the BFLs or not.
The BFLs link,
the
the Opens. I believe the Opens you can link, but I'm not. No, there's no link for the Opens on the ESS side. So, Toyotas and the BFLs do that. So, yeah. So, like Nick's saying, basically that means I'm a boater and I'm bringing a co-angler, and that guarantees your spot because you're bringing 2 folks to fill two slots. And if you're looking to co-angle, if you go into the BFL groups, especially, there's always boaters in there looking for co-angler links, like because a lot of guys want to cut their teeth on bigger stuff with the BFL, because it's an easy way to get into a bigger tournament.
Now, I would suggest for those out there that are thinking about, well, hey, I'm just a bank fisherman or just a weekend warrior or anything like that, join a club. You will learn a lot, depending on what club you're in, obviously. But it's good camaraderie, and you will learn the ins and outs of bass fishing, doing that way. And a lot of clubs they're cheaper entry fee. And I mean, they fish a lot, of different lakes normally. I think we fish 13. We got 13 different lakes that we fish this year in our local club.
Yeah.
So, and that's from Roanoke River to Lake Norman and everywhere in between. So
I think a lot of when you look at historically across the board with the guys and gals at the top level of fishing, majority of them came from a club or they're still part of a club. You do have those that grew up in the collegiate ranks and moved on through that, but that is the grassroots of bass fishing. I know, like when the elites did the whole 9 to fish to qualify to the elites, like, oh, you took the grassroots working man's thing out, but the reality is like local clubs are really the working man's circuit, you know what I mean? And so I understand it, but all clubs aren't created equal. I actually saw some social media posts the other night that talked about like, clubs are transitioning from what they used to be to now it's more, I just want to take your money type situation, but that's not true for all clubs. Like there's a lot of great clubs out there, and there's a lot of hammers that fish those clubs that maybe used to fish BASS or MLF or FLW back in the day and stuff like that. So you do have a lot of local legends that fish your club.
Well, and if you're looking to make money in a club, you're not going to do it.
Well, I would submit, wouldn't you submit like joining a club to make a bunch of money is probably the wrong reason to join a club anyhow?
Exactly.
You're not making money joining. There's no club that you're going to afford the entry fee.
Yeah, I mean,
make any money.
Nick talked about like, hey, I cut a check my very first event on the Toyota Series. Nick, do you fish full time for a living?
No.
What do you do full time for a living?
No, construction work.
You're an entrepreneur, right? You own your own company and stuff. So like, I mean, and you see that. I mean, geez, cops have to have second jobs to, afford a living and stuff like that. So, again, a local club, you're not going to get rich off a local club, and nor should you even want to join a club for that reason. If you are thinking about it, probably not for you.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to ask you though. Oh, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say like clubs are great, and Trey made a great point. Like not our clubs are rated, created equal. Like when I joined my club, and I haven't fished probably in a year and a half with them, but it's because I met somebody. They introduced me, and I was just getting into fishing, and I just got my, Triton boat at the time, moved up from the tracker. So like it worked out great. But I would highly recommend, like if you're looking to join a club, like go to a couple different ones. And I know some clubs have the requirement where you have to fish like at a probation period, right? Ours didn't, but like just go try a couple out and see which was the best fit, because like some clubs are all about teaching and they'll share a lot of information. Other clubs, are much more kind of cutthroat. And
exactly.
It's just kind of what you want to go into, but just kind of feel out the dynamics. So, but like the great thing is, especially if you're in the southeast region, there's tons of clubs around. Like there's probably 20 within like 30 minutes of here,
And if you're close to us in North Carolina, just ask us. I can tell you which ones to avoid. And
we'll give you 25 clubs right off top.
I can tell you some of the good ones.
And with that, you don't have to have a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 boat to join these clubs, guys. I mean, you can be in a tracker and smoke everybody. We had a guy in the club before I was there, but he had a pontoon, and that's what he fished out of, and he did really well.
I heard about him when I joined you.
I
want a lot of money out of a 14.5-foot aluminum tracker.
Yeah.
Fishing local derbies.
Yeah. Yep. You don't even have to have a boat to join a club, by the way.
No.
There are clubs out there where there's co-anglers, and the club that I used to be in, which, by the way, I run a tracker, and I won my very first and very last tournament of the first season I fished in that club, right? And it's a lot of luck for sure, because I definitely sucked at fishing at the time. But you don't have to have a boat, and that's a great thing. A lot of clubs will do like, a random draw out of a coffee can or whatever the case may be, and you'll get paired with a boater. Or a lot of clubs are kind of letting that family environment happen where it's like father, son, or husband, wife, and it's not team. You fish against Chelsea. Chelsea fishes against you, and that's really the sense of community that you have with certain clubs.
It's just about getting tournament experience too. Yep. I mean, it's the best way to get a feel, because our club, everybody's competitive. We all want to take each other's money, but at the end of the day, if somebody has an issue on the water or something happens, like all you gotta do is make a phone call, and if somebody answers, they're gonna come help you, and they're gonna come up. They may not tell everybody what's going on, but if you're struggling, like they'll come up and talk to you. Like we fish a lot of lakes I've never seen before, and I had a lot of guys tell me stuff like, hey, try this. This is how we usually do good. This is what I look for this time of year, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to come out and tell me their juice, because it is a competition. Now, after the fact, I've got a ton of information for people. Like once the tournament's done and the dust settles, that's really when you can learn from those guys, like what they're doing. And most likely in our club,
I think you get too much information from Mikey.
Mike does
not care. He will give you any information.
He is information. I stopped asking Mike, because you get overloaded with information. Yeah. Well, you can go here and do this, and if that doesn't work, then you run over there and do that. Then you can go back to doing this, and then you can try that. Oh, and this one time we caught him doing that, and I'm just like, Mike, bro, shallow or deep? Like where are they? Yeah.
So,
Look,
but
I would much
Okay.
rather have that though than hey, what'd
Yeah.
you catch them on? Plastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
Plastic.
And now, mind you, we do have
We
a
do
couple
have
guys in the club that will
Yeah.
do that. But we
Plus, you're probably giving your money to Todd Parker, who's fishing with a wacky rig Senko.
yeah. I
But-
do know. I do
Shout
know
out to
color,
Todd.
though.
but here's one thing. Here is one thing, and we started this show off with fish care and conservation. There is one thing that I know that everybody will share information on. That's how to change a tire on a trailer,
Mhm.
how to jumpstart your boat, how to load your boat properly, how to unload your boat, how to do fish care. If they know how to do it, they're going to teach you.
Yeah.
So while they may not share their spots or their techniques or where or anything like that to catch fish, they're going to share all the other things that are probably far more important, in my opinion. All the logistics that goes behind even fishing a club tournament. When you guys drive down to the Roanoke River, that's not an easy haul.
No.
Like for some people, that's over 3 hours away, right? So there's room and board that potentially is required. There's trailer tires, there's hubs, there's all sorts of stuff. Taking the right extension cord to power your boat, fish care, all that stuff. That's the education that if you're going to join a local club, you're going to want to garner that stuff, because when you get to the Toyota Series, you can get to the EQs or whatever the case may be, you know how to fizz a fish properly.
Yep.
You know how to change a tire by yourself. Don't carry your little jack that comes with your truck. It don't work very well. I promise you, you're going to learn to carry some 2x6 pieces with you.
I
Things
carry a
like that,
floor
right?
jack in the back.
Yeah, I carry a floor jack as well. But like, those are the things that like really will help you.
You don't
when you
learn
join the
till
club.
it's an issue.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
right.
Actually, 2 years ago, I believe it was, might have been, you've been in the club a year, right? 2
This
years?
is my second year.
Second
yeah.
year. Okay, so it might have been 3 years ago now. We actually sat down with everybody in our club and brought up a YouTube video of how to fizz a fish.
Yep.
It was very important. And then I believe last year for our banquet time, I got everybody bags, and in that bag was a fizz,
A fizz kit.
a fizz kit.
Yep.
Yeah, that must
for
have been right
everybody.
before I came, because
Yeah.
Nick never gave me a fizz
Oh, you
kit.
never got one? Well,
Well, he owns like 37 of them.
Yeah, I've
anyways.
got a pile of them. Like I carry, and that my regret from the incident we talked about earlier is I keep 6 or 7 of Barb's kits in my truck to give out like at our club and stuff. If I see, and I regret not going up to that club and handing them a few and being like,
Yeah.
learn how to use these. But there were so many fish that I was like overwhelmed, and it just wouldn't have gone well. And that's on me. Like I should be able to handle that like a mature adult, but in that instant, I wasn't going to handle it like a mature adult.
and with that too, even shallow fish, we've had to fish,
Oh, yeah.
we've brought fish up from 8 feet and put them in a live well and, check them a couple minutes later. And all of a sudden, hey man, he's belly up. All right, well, let's get him out. Let's fizz him.
I'm going to get Barb to come on and talk with us, because she says it all the time. Like barotrauma can happen in as little as 1.5 feet of water.
Yeah.
It just depends on I don't know all the factors. She does, so she's a better one to talk on that. But yeah, I mean, it's a club is a great way to start. We've talked about it before. Like Nick said, there's opportunities to learn, there's opportunities to teach. And there's opportunities for you as a new angler to maybe teach those guys something. If you go in there and you know about fizzing fish and you notice at tournaments guys are bringing fish in their belly up, you can be the one to speak up and say, hey, there's a better way to do this, and we need to set the example. I think you're starting to. I don't think I'm starting to see more clubs pop up, right? Like newer clubs, and a lot of them are super focused on teaching, and it's very refreshing because, like Nick said. Ben said it, you said it, I've said it. Like there's a lot of guys that just will go out and take money and they don't care. But to see people starting to realize, like, if we don't teach the younger generation, not only tournament fishing, but just fishing in general, it's going to go away. So to be able to get those involved. And then with COVID and the mass number of people that got involved during the shutdowns and everything, a ton of people picked up fishing gear and went out and started fishing, and it sparked an interest in tournament fishing, and they jumped in local clubs and did stuff like that. So, check out your local club. Just Google like bass club near me, and I promise you, pretty much anywhere in the country, you're going to find a club that's close.
So you're talking about being overwhelmed by the floating fish. Let's talk about you when you jumped in the Toyotas. So you jumped in it in 2020. What was some of the most overwhelming things for you jumping in as a co-angler in the Toyotas? Like, was there anything that you were like extremely nervous about?
not catching a fish, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big, the first tournament. I'm like, yeah. Cause you look around and you see, guys like Joey and,
He's talking about Joey Cifuentes.
Yeah, Cifuentes, I'm sorry. Yep. And you look over and, oh, there's Bobby Lane.
Yeah.
And, there are these other guys. And it's like, man, if I get in the back of one of these boats, how are they going to treat me?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to back boat me all day? Was my first, thought, all right, I'm going to get back boated, but I'm going to be able to learn a lot.
Yeah.
And it really hasn't happened.
Okay.
I've had JT was great. He literally put his arms out like this and said, wherever I'm facing, this is my area. You have everything else. He goes, but if I switch over to this area, he goes, I'm just putting my, my arms going like this, wherever I go, that's my area. You fish everywhere else.
And every boater is not created equally, because there's some others that'll be like, throw anywhere you want. Right. Yeah. And then there's some that are like, I only want you casting out the back of this boat.
Yeah. Like I fished with one guy. He was throwing up into, we'll say 8 to 14 feet in there. And, I was thrown in the back of the boat. And finally, after about 5 minutes, I looked and I said, how deep am I back here? Cause a lot of them will cut the grass off. That's the other thing. They don't.
They want you seeing those points.
No, I mean, they can say they're wanting to conserve, battery. They don't want you seeing fish going by or their points or where exactly you're at. And I asked him, like, how deep am I back here? He's like, oh, you're about 35, 40 feet. I'm like, good gravy. I got
a wacky rig sink.
Well, no, I mean, I was doing like Texas rig and stuff. And I'm like, man, this thing's falling for a long time. And he goes, yeah, my co-angler yesterday, asked me the same thing. I said, well, did he catch anything over here? It's like, no. I'm like, awesome. That's just, some of the stuff that you got to
Yeah, but how do you approach that conversation? Because in your head, right, you're like, I need to ask this dude, like, hey, bro, can you like position the boat differently so I can hit the bank or whatever?
Well, I'm a little different. Okay. Like I'm going to speak my mind. So like, there's no going, like if I got a question to ask him, I'm just going to ask him. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're like, no, this is how I'm fishing. That instance, he wasn't moving the boat. I mean, he was, I'm thinking there was a big hump right there. Mm-hmm. And he was whacking him on a jerk bait.
Okay.
Seeing him on, forward facing sonar.
Best topic of discussion. But, it's interesting because you pay $100 or $500, right?
Yep.
You pay $500 to either do one of a couple things or all of them. One, you're paying to go fishing and maybe win a little change, or you don't win any change, but maybe you get a good education.
Yes.
Or maybe you get all three, or maybe you get that fourth one where you don't learn nothing, you don't catch nothing, and you're just there for a boat ride.
Yeah.
You paid $500.
And I can tell you right now, I've learned something from everybody I fish with.
Good.
Everybody. We fished, I believe it was Pickwick. And the one guy told me, I hope you got a lot of hooks and a lot of sinkers. I'm like, oh, he's like, we're going to the dam. And that's where we went. And sure enough, I looked at him. We were there probably 2 hours, and we stayed there all day. But after 2 hours, I'm like,
I'm out.
I'm like, hey, I'm kind of out of sinkers. He's like, drawer right there. He goes, sinkers and hooks. Use all you need.
Wow.
I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And I probably broke off 40 times.
Oh, wow.
That day. Wow. He broke off probably 30 to 35 times. But it was just the style of fishing, how we had to fish it. We were in chunk rock using the lightest shaky head that we could. And you had to try to get it where it wouldn't go in, in between. And they would come out and eat it. But we stayed there all day. I think I caught 3 fish that day. And he had a small limit. And
your limit in the Toyota is just still 5, right? Because I know the opens is 3.
Yeah, opens is 3.
Okay.
So, but it was I mean, it's you gotta go into it with an open mind. And you can't be negative. So you gotta be positive going into this thing. Every tournament that I go into, depending on the lake, my goal, I'm going to catch 15 to 20 pounds a day. Now I
Mhm.
might only catch one fish, but the next day I'm going to catch 15 to 20 pounds a day.
Yeah.
You know,
That's where that's you got to convince yourself that you're going to do well.
oh yeah.
You know, even if it's hard to do.
You have to beat yourself.
You have to beat yourself.
You know,
Well, that's the thing with fishing, tournament fishing in general. You're not fishing against anybody but yourself.
And the
I mean,
fish.
Well, the fish, but they don't count.
and they
I mean,
win,
you're not really
they
competing.
win more times. Than
You're not
the
really
other-
competing against the other anglers. Though. You're competing against yourself far more than you are against them.
That's
because
true.
Yeah.
Once you get to a point, you have some experience. Everybody can go out there and catch them on any given day, and it's the decisions that you make and the things that you decide to do that are going to determine whether you're successful or not. every single one of us knows how to fish, right? Like we know where to go, where we should go, where the fish should be, but the decisions we make in a day, where you start, where you don't start. When you get in those bigger tournaments, like draw number plays a role because
big
if you're on fish we've talked about it with Trent, like you have your A hole, your B hole, your C hole, and your D hole, and you're at the bottom of the launch order. A, B, and C and D might have somebody on it. So you better have an E, F, and G to go to, or at least have an idea of some similar areas. And that's why when you talk to guys, if you ever have the opportunity to talk to folks that fish at a high level, a question everybody always asks is about practice.
Yeah.
And almost every single one of them, when you talk to them, is not practicing an area or a spot. They're practicing an area or a technique or a specific depth range or a type of cover, because if they find them on rock in 8 to 10 feet, they can find rock in 8 to 10 feet anywhere on that lake, and there should be fish in it.
Yeah.
And so they're not necessarily as worried about A, B, or C, where I know that there's fish, because on my graph, I have 3,000 rock points, and one of those I can go fishing. I know I'm going to catch them. Yeah. Now, when you start talking about brush pile lakes and things like that, it's a little bit different, because then you're limited unless you're in South Carolina, because my understanding, I haven't spent any time on Hartwell, but there's 372,000 brush piles have sunk in that lake or something. There's plenty of brush piles for people to find. But
that's like that day on Jordan when I was out there at the tournament, and my spots weren't producing. About 9:30, I caught a 7-pounder out of a brush pile, and I ran every single brush pile I had marked between like the S turns and like Farrington. I didn't catch a single fish the rest of the day.
Hopefully, you had big fish for that day.
I did. I had big fish, and I actually took fourth place with 1
See?
7-pounder. But
there you go.
One of those summer tournaments. But yeah. But the point is, like, you are competing against yourself. You're competing against the fish, because you may catch one in one way and fish the entire rest of the day doing the same thing. It just doesn't work out.
and in the Toyotas, you are competing against the boater. You're competing against the boater's fish.
Yes.
And he knows it, or she knows it. And that's why not all boaters are created equal.
Well, that's any boat that you're fishing as a co-angler. You're competing against the boater, even if it's not direct.
Well, and I'll tell you this: when I fished with Joey, we were going down one stretch of bank, and there was 4 4x4 posts that were sticking up out of the water, and he threw at every one of them, and then he kept going, and I noticed one area on the farthest post that he didn't throw to. I throw in there, boom, 5.5 pounder.
Nice.
I get it in. He looks at me. He goes, "I'm happy for you, but I hate that you caught that fish right behind me."
Yep.
He goes, "It won't happen again." And it didn't. But
but that's a good point. Like, you have to pay attention.
oh yeah.
And I was gonna ask you, like, when you're getting ready, when you're preparing, there's probably only a handful of things that you're going to be able to do technique wise as a co-angler, right?
We're allowed 7 rods.
So there is a limit to
there is a limit. Now, whether they force that limit or not is another thing. I've seen guys go on there with 10 rods and nobody says anything. Now, it states in the rules, Toyota Series rules, co-angler 7 rods.
Okay.
And you better keep a spinning rod with you.
Okay.
No matter where I don't care if you're on Okeechobee, one of them rods better be a spinning rod.
Well, I was going to ask you, what is your typical loadout? Any lake in the country that you go to?
Drop shot, wacky rig, shaky head jig, and then usually a horny toad, some sort of top water. Usually a horny toad. I'm a big horny toad guy. I get that from Mikey. And then a chatterbait and maybe a floating worm, depending on where we're at.
So all pretty much relatively finesse style baits, minus, those couple.
Yes, I don't hardly, if you know you're punching, you don't punch here in North Carolina, you punch down in Florida.
Yeah,
it's not flipping, it's punching. You're talking, 1.5 ounce to 2 ounce weight. That's about the only time I'll power fish. And if I'm in Florida, that rod is always going with me, even if I'm not going to use it, because you can ask your boater. I always ask my boater. We get our name and number of who we're fishing with the night before. So I always call them and try to get as much information out of him as possible. But even if he says, hey, we're staying offshore all day long, you still got to bring your punching rod, because it's that time where he's, halfway through the day and he's like, you know what, this offshore stuff's not working. We're going to go punch. Well, what are you going to do? Yeah. If you don't have a extra heavy rod, you're not you don't punch. If you don't have 50, 60 pound braid on, you're not going through it. No. Now I will tell you, if it's not as thick, I actually switched from braid to 25 pound fluorocarbon. And I believe it's given me a couple extra bites because they're not used to it. Yeah. See, because braid does make a sound. When you're yodeling that thing in there, you can hear it. Yeah.
I can tell you that for me, flipping, unless I am flipping super heavy vegetation, I flip 25 pound fluorocarbon. Yeah. And I promise you, I will put money on it that I get a few extra bites because of it. Yeah. Because of exactly what you're saying.
I will tell you the best sound you ever hear is braid going in there and that sucker thumping it, and you setting the hook and it's
I agree with that 100%. But yeah, like I'm the same way. And you'll notice, if people I pay attention to what guys are doing, even when they don't talk about it. But if you watch a lot of these high level guys, elites and BPT and stuff, a lot of them, when they're not flipping and super heavy stuff, they are also flipping fluorocarbon. Yeah. Yeah. So, we talked about those key rods that you kind of carry around the country, and you'll hear that from a lot of folks that fish out of the back of the boat. And you brought up a really interesting point. And Steve Loper, this will come out after your event up there at the Potomac. But you asked me yesterday, like, I know we're going to be fishing grass. Like, what do I do? And I was like, pay attention to your boater. Yeah. And whatever they miss, don't miss it. No, because they're gonna miss something, and that very likely could be where that fish is. And so there's a whole different realm of challenges when you're fishing out of the back of the boat, especially flipping. Now, I can't imagine getting behind somebody like Joey or somebody like that, who's the one thing if you ever get the opportunity to be in a boat with somebody that fishes at that level, is how freaking efficient they are. Yep. Oh, it's unbelievable. There's nothing wasted. There's no wasted motions. Even if they get hung up, there's nothing wasted about it. So for you to be able to see that he missed the left side of that post, maybe, there's one laying there. But that also speaks to how important it is to be thorough. Because how many times do we see guys or gals go out and fish, and they fish a lay down and they pitch to it like 2-3 times, like right side, left side, front side, and they don't get bit and they leave.
I mean, you gotta pick apart whatever you're throwing at, even, especially lay downs. I mean, and my personal opinion is I always start the farthest back, into the water first, and then work your way to the bank, because the worst thing you can do is catch a 2-pounder on the bank, have it go through all that stuff, and have a 5-pounder being at the end that you just scared off.
And then you're going to fish shallow the rest of the day. Yeah. And you're only going to hit the shallow portions. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I am terrible about that because I don't know why, but I need to get better. But one of the ways to do that is I got to look at my forward-facing sonar sometimes if I can't see them. So don't yell at me, Pete.
If I flip it out, I'll even turn it on. That's just me, though.
Well, I'll even top water going over lay down. Yeah. I will go over that thing 5, 6, 7 times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Even if we're moving on.
The juice now, folks.
Yeah. Even if we're moving on, I'm still I'm throwing back there as far as I can and still working it. Because it might take that many times for you to aggravate them enough to bite it.
Well, and here's the thing. Like I just had this conversation with a buddy like last week, and we were talking about fall. A lot of people were back on the water again. They're fishing shallow. A lot of people throwing top water. Fish are seeing a lot of the same baits, buzz bait, walking bait, whatever it is, especially with a buzz bait and a walking bait. Like you said, with top water, they come up to a laydown or a dock or whatever it is they're fishing, and they make one pitch to maybe one to the right side, one to the left, and they just keep rolling. I will throw this time of year, especially at a laydown, 5, 6, 7 times, and I can't tell how many times that bite was on the 5, 6, 7 casts. And I don't even know if it's so much aggravating them. It's like they get conditioned, and I don't care what people say. Fish are smarter than we think. To a guy, buzzbait. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Well, that's 2, and it goes away. Oh, well, there's nothing there. So when they see that bait 5 or 6 times, now it kind of changes things for them. So
yeah. And the fish this time of year too are also moving around a lot. Oh, yeah. We talked about it in our last episode or 2 episodes ago about fall fishing. You have to understand the fish, and right now, like, they don't have a reason to just sit somewhere for really long periods of time unless there's wind or something that's keeping them there as bait goes past. Like with the thermocline dispersed, fish are moving around, right? And so you may throw it that lay down 2, 3, 4 times, and that fish is 50 yards down the bank, and then he or she hears it, and they're moving over to that lay down. Yeah. Right. And then they bite or whatever the case may be.
Well, and another thing, everybody, we said it earlier, color doesn't matter, size, especially with a buzzbait I probably shouldn't tell you all this, but I'm going to anyways. I start throwing a 1/4 ounce.
Yeah. Small one.
Yeah. Real small, and work it as slow as I can. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times them fish, they haven't seen, they're used to the big clackers and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden here comes this little rinky-dink one that's just buzzing by.
Oh, look, it's this year's hatch of shad. Yeah. So we talked about like the Toyotas and, and where you're from. And before we move on, the last thing that I want to ask you, if you have a piece of advice to give to the guys and gals that want to fish the Toyotas and jump in as co's, what would that piece of advice be?
Don't be scared.
Okay.
If you have the time and you have the money and you think you are ready for that next step, do it.
Okay.
And you might only do it for a year. You might get there and not do so well. And that's all on the person. Okay. I didn't do well this year. Do I want to spend the money and do it again next year? And I will say, fish all 3 of them. It's a point system to get to the championship. The championship doesn't cost anything. So, but yeah, if you think you're at that level to where, hey, or even if you're not at that level, but you have the time and the money and you want to go and learn, I'm telling you, you will learn a lot about these lakes. Especially if you get with either a pro that's fishing it or a local. I've learned my most stuff from locals, and whether that is what to throw or certain colors to throw. Harris chain. I mean, in Florida, everybody throws June bug. All right. Well, listen, Harris chain, you better be throwing a watermelon red flake. Mm-hmm. I mean, that it gets bit, so, but yeah, if you're looking and you want to challenge yourself more. I love a challenge. And you think that you're ready, and like I said, you got to have the time, you got to have the money. Cause it's not cheap going down to Florida. Now you can fish the Northerns, which you'll have maybe a little closer, at least one of them is closer. But like next year, the 3rd tournament for the Southerns is at Santee Cooper again.
Yeah. Right down the road.
Yeah. So like last year, we fished one day. The other 2 days got canceled.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which some guys thought, well, hey, maybe the first day should have got canceled. But I mean, we fished it. I mean, you got to fish the MLF, bass. Even I know the NPFL doesn't have lower stuff, but even the NPFL, they are not going to put you in a situation to where you could get injured.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not going to put you in a dangerous situation to where, you know, you're going to sink your boat. Now, do boats sink? Yes. Is that, you know, operator error? Sometimes it is. You know, sometimes a storm just comes up, but they're never going to put you in that danger of doing it. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you're not sure if you're ready for that, well, do a BFL.
There you go.
See if you can do a BFL, and BFLs are everywhere. And even Bass has the Bass Nation.
Yep.
Right.
You know, do some of those. I believe there's 3 tournaments a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Carolina,
and if you finish high enough, you get to be on the state team.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, don't be afraid to make that jump. I think a lot of us, sometimes do that in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just if you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be, you know, 50 or 60 and man, I wish I would have done that. Well, just
go do
it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, the BFLs are definitely a great way to get into it because, well, I know like locally, especially at Car Lake, they have like 6,942 of them a year. So it's pretty easy to find one and jump in. That's obviously an exaggeration, but
there's also the ABA.
The ABA,
that's right. Yep.
Yeah, whatever's going on with that organization. I know there's some change. I know they added a trail, but we've heard some birdies tell us some stuff about the ABA that there might be some changes coming there. So keep your eyes peeled with that. But that's another great organization. Fishers of Men is another one we haven't really talked about, but they're all over the country. And I think Trey and I are going to fish Fishers of Men locally next year. I think you and Mikey are fishing next year. So
now they got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, we're just going to give them some comfort. I didn't want them to ease through that bad boy. No, I'm just kidding. But
no,
it's another organization though that's great, and they have solo and team events. So
all the more reason to keep our lakes protected and you know work on those conservation efforts because there's tons of opportunities for folks out there to like get into fishing, whether it's at the local level or regionally and stuff. So, but on that note, and we talk about change. The recent change we just had was you joining us as a partner on this show.
Yeah. It's great to be partnered with you guys. Carolina Waters. I kind of got into it. I'm going to say late, but Brad and Chris started Carolina Waters in 2020, which was probably not the best time to start with COVID and everything. Yeah. But, you know, they had they're trying to figure out a way to maybe do a little extra here and there and start off with a couple hats and some shirts and stuff like that, apparel. And probably a year and a half ago now, I joined on and, I kind of seen what the direction that they wanted to go in and thought with me having my own business and running it that I could help them steer in that direction. And then we've done fairly well. But yeah, partnering with you guys here at the OneCast is great. I think it's going to be great for both of us. Getting the word out, helping each other out, getting people out there fishing. The shirts, as Ben and you guys have already said, they're pretty nice.
Yeah, they are.
They're good quality, SPF 50, which I'm bad about. I don't like suntan lotion.
Yep.
I don't either.
Sunblock, I should say. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I hate it. No, I don't put it on.
Me either.
I probably should. My wife and my grandma actually get on me all the time because I'll come back and my grandma will see pictures and my nose is redder than Rudolph and my ears and everything. But I've started wearing a buff a little bit when I remember I got gloves that my grandpa gave me to try to help. But the long sleeve shirts, I'm telling you, when I'm in Florida, we have a charcoal shirt as well, a long one. And even the black hooded ones, I wear those down in Florida.
Yes.
I mean, feel like, man, that attracts the heat. Well, it might a little bit, but I'm telling you right now, I'm cooler wearing that than I'm wearing a t-shirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
A cotton t-shirt. So, but yeah, Carolina Waters, it's we're trying to come out with new stuff about every quarter. And if you guys have any listeners out there, if there's something that you want us to carry, shoot us over a DM. Let us know. I mean, we're always trying to take, guys that are on staff and everything, getting their opinions on, whether it's colors or different designs or anything like that. We're still working on it, but I'd like to see us get the t-shirts. I know I just said about the long sleeve ones, but I like us to see they get the t-shirts in the UPF 50.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And wear those around. So, and then our new hoodies that we got out, the white and camel ones, they're actually a little lighter than our original hoodies. The hood is a 1-ply instead of being a 2-ply.
Good.
So yeah, that's what I put the 2-ply. I'm like, I don't like this, guys. Like, we're gonna have to switch that. The other thing I like about them is that the hoods come way out, which is a great thing for bed fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows.
Block that sun.
Yeah,
from
you get
the
that
side.
sun that just comes right there, and you can't have your hands over like this all the time when you're trying to bed fish. So
so first of all, the hats aren't only to protect the bald spots, like mine, but we spend so much money as anglers on electronics and tackle, and gas and lodging and food and everything. A couple extra bucks to protect yourself from UV is extremely important. So when you see that angler out there with, the SPF shirts and the gloves and the hats and the sunglasses or whatever the case may be, it's not because that person wants to just look cool. Maybe it is, but I'll tell you what, they're probably not going to get, what is it, like skin cancer, melanoma, or whatever the case may be.
Cancer.
As quickly as somebody else. And I know initially getting into the game, that was not a consideration whatsoever.
No.
So like when you look at Carolina Waters, you look at the products that they make, it's a safety product. Yeah, it's comfortable. It's snazzy if you're an angler. I'm not setting a fashion statement anywhere else outside, except for on the water and stuff. But and my wife gives me crap all the time, but this is what I like to wear and it protects me. So, and then, small businesses banding together is how they a lot of times they succeed.
Yeah.
Right. And we definitely appreciate that partnership. Yep. And like Pete talked about in the beginning of the show, like use the code, the OneCast at North Carolina or the website, CarolinaWatersNC.com.
Yeah.
Use the code, the OneCast. And you even talked about some of the proceeds are going to go towards the family in need. I did want to ask you, and then I'll turn it over because I know I've been running my mouth, but you talked about like starting during the COVID timeframe as being a bad thing, but there's some goodness that comes from that, right? Because now you have that scar tissue of those logistical challenges. If we ever, I hope that we never do, but if we ever face those issues again, Carolina Waters has the resiliency for that.
Yeah. I mean, we've already gone through it and everything. So we kind of know, which like everybody, when COVID and everything hit and we had stuff was getting shut down, a lot of businesses closed down. So if it ever did happen again, we already know that we can stick through it. And hopefully we can help other small businesses, stay afloat if that time ever does come.
Yeah.
All of our hats are made. Of course, we get them in, but the patches, the stitch work, all that stuff is done by people that live in Sanford. So we're trying to help them out. We try to get as much local help and stuff as we can to help them out.
Yep.
So and to get back to giving back. When I heard the podcast. That I listen to podcasts all the time. I don't ever listen to music, hardly ever. It's always podcast. And the OneCast is one of the ones I click on first. And when Maddie was on and doing that, we just thought that it would be a great idea to, hey, let's jump in on this boat. Let's help those out. They don't know us, we don't know them, but just because you don't know somebody doesn't mean that you can't help. Mm-hmm. And whether it's $1 or it's $1,000. The people that need it, they don't care. Mm-hmm. So if we can do our part, I challenge you guys to do your part. Whether you buy Carolina Water stuff or not this month, go on there, donate. They need it. If you were in this situation, you'd want somebody to help you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, some people, they're not going to ask for help. So you just give it freely.
That's right.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So like they were talking about 20% off using the code, the OneCast, and also 20% any sales through the month of October will go to the family of Tony Camille and their 3 kids there in Hawaii that we talked about on the Maddie episode. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, go back and listen to part 2 with Maddie Wong, but you got to listen to part 1 first, because obviously you got to get the full story.
You really do. It's like 4 hours worth of talking.
Yeah. We could, the first time we had him on, we were like, man, if we keep going, it's going to be like a 7.5 hour long podcast.
Yeah. That's okay though. They're good podcasts. I'm telling you, we, I drive everywhere for work and just put it on Spotify and there we go.
That's when I listen to them.
Yeah.
That's what I think that's statistically when most people listen to podcasts are on their way to and from work. And then, there is the gym that plays a role with podcasting. But, that's the same thing with our podcast. We just, it's small and we started it and people like to listen to it. So why not get other companies to partner with us to make an impact? And it's much more than just like selling product. You guys are involved in like charity events, not just the fundraiser for the family in Hawaii, right? But you're included in other events, right? Like some of the fishing tournaments.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
actually I'm part of Special Operations Bass Anglers.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of, I think, 3 civilians. All the rest are military, whether active or inactive. And we have our tournament coming up November 10th. It's a Friday at Lake Norman. So, and that one, it's called the Mark McCowan Bass Tournament. Mark was the one that actually originally started our organization.
Okay.
So this year we pick somebody new every year. This year it's Cantrell. He actually died in a house fire, his own house fire, going in trying to save his kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we are this year's tournament is in recognition of him. It's $100 to get in, $10 big fish, guaranteed $2,000 payout for first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go, I believe it's 1 every 5 or 1 every 7. Is what we're paying out. We have tons of giveaways, a lot of raffles. Just offhand, I know we have a 10-inch Solix from Humminbird. We have 3 the ranch hooks. Man, what else do we have? We got a bunch of hats. We got a bunch of tackle stuff. We have Outlaw Lithium Batteries is donating one of their batteries for the raffle. I believe Power Pool is sending a Power Pool to it.
Wow.
Yamamoto baits, we get those. Yeah, there's going to be gift cards. One year we had a couple handguns that we could raffle off, and we did that. But yeah, there's a whole bunch more stuff. A bunch of lures, a bunch of soft plastics. And like I said, for $100, it's going to a good organization. Guaranteed $2,000 first place. I mean, where else are you going to go for $100 to win $2,000?
The incentive is to go fish and support, a 501c3 organization that supports, fallen and wounded warriors and things like that. And that's how this thing operates. We ran this tournament this year with the nonprofit and got anglers out on Harris. Of course, Cashin was involved and taco trucks were involved and all this stuff. And listen, it's okay to come for free stuff. Okay. But I do want to emphasize the fact that this is how nonprofits and profit organizations operate, in conjunction with each other. It's we got to make these things happen because there is no big business out there that's going to do all of this stuff, so that's where we band together and make this stuff happen. I will be there.
Trey and I'll be there fishing, and we're also going to do some stuff with the organization that Nick asked us to do. Ben, I think you're still trying to figure it out because you're going to Hawaii not too long before or after that. So
yeah.
But Trey and I will for sure be there.
Yeah, and we've had, Brent Ayler has come out before. He's not going to be able to make it this year. He already had family plans. But Shaw Grisby Jr. comes every year.
Is Hank coming again? He came.
Hank Cherry usually comes. Jake Whitaker, Brian Thrift, KJ Queen. He comes every year.
Yeah,
He's a great guy. I'm missing somebody.
A lot of professional anglers.
Yeah, there's
show
some
up,
professional anglers showing up.
So you guys can come out and test your gumption.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said before, I like a challenge. I'm actually going to fish this one this year. This will be my first time I'm fishing it. I'm usually behind the scenes, but I'm actually going to fish this one. So I'm going to go and we'll do a little bit of pre-fishing. I'm going to go yank all Mikey's fish.
Yeah,
and
I'm going to steal.
Are you fishing with Mike or are you fishing with somebody else?
No, I'm actually fishing with Ricky Moe.
Oh, well, perfect. Yeah, go swarm out there. As a matter of fact, if you can give me some Mike's waypoints, let me have them, because we actually have our club championship on Norman Saturday and Sunday after. So the tournament's Friday. We're fishing for that event, and then our club tournament Saturday, Sunday, 2-day there. So
the old championship.
We're gonna go catch all Mike's fish on Friday.
Actually, one of the things
true 2-day.
I'm gonna talk to our command group about this, because Mark McCown, he's a Green Beret, right? Was Green Beret.
Yes.
He passed, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he passed in Afghanistan, I want to say. And then Cantrell, he was a warrant officer, I want to say. And like Nick said, he died in that house fire. And I was there on what used to be Fort Bragg at the time when it happened.
Still is.
Yeah, still is. But this is something that like even the military would take interest in covering from a public affairs perspective, to highlight the things that are going on in the local communities, to pay honor to those who pay the ultimate sacrifice. So
so Josh Watkins, if you're listening, we need that Army rat boat out there.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. So
and with that, if there's anybody out there that would like to donate anything, just contact me. You can DM me. I'm on Facebook. It's Nick Kincaid or Nick Kincaid Fishing, whichever one you want to do. Or you can DM the Special Operations Bass Anglers page. All that will work. But
I have Special Operations Bass Anglers in the description every week, and I'll have Nick's stuff tagged in there this week, so you can just go down and click on that, and it'll take you right to them.
Yeah, and we're working on a web page, just because we need one. Right now, it's just the Facebook page, but we're working on that web page, and if we can get, I believe it's 65 boats. You're looking at Triton money, Triton Gold, and Ranger, and all that stuff. So Nitro money and all that. So it could be a really good payday for you if you're in one of those.
And there's no pre-registration, right? You're doing everything at the ramp.
Yeah, everything's at the ramp. I know some guys are big on what number they get. So what we did last year and this year is if you DM Special Operations Bass Anglers and tell us that you're going to be fishing it, it's kind of like a pre-registration. You don't pay anything, but we'll put you on the list, and that list that'll be the list that we bring with us the morning of. Okay. So we have a couple that's already on there. But if not, you just when you get there, you'll register and pay, and Black Rifle Coffee will be there again. Awesome. So you'll have some hot coffee there, or the cold stuff, whichever one you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we should have we're gonna have a lot of stuff there. So
it's gonna be a good time, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You're gonna catch fish on Lake Norman. It's gonna happen. You just got to find the right size. But either way, it's gonna be a great time for everybody. Might be a little chilly, but it's always good on Spotted Bass Lake anyway.
Oh yeah, and really, if you're wondering how to catch the fish, just look at Red Crest.
Yeah, there you go.
Just throw a mag draft around docks and eventually run into them.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Alabama rig. Just bring an Alabama rig.
That's all I'm throwing. Yeah. A rig and a mag draft. The only two rods gonna be on my.
I'm throwing a jitterbug. You're gonna lose to me.
No, but seriously, make sure you check them out. Special Operations Bass Anglers. They're linked below. And we're gonna have a chance to talk about all the socials, but I'll have him linked below too. Yeah. We're gonna be there doing some I don't know if we're going to do a live podcast or we're going to record one. We're going to do something while we're there.
Yeah.
Try to get some of the anglers on. And I'm just looking forward to going and have a good time. I don't care if I catch a fish, honestly. Like, I'm just looking forward to being around a bunch of good people and anglers and hanging out. So if you're able to, we've been talking about it, definitely jump into that event. Like Nick said, you can DM them if you're worried about your blast off position and get your name on the list. If you're not, just show up the morning of. There's plenty of Airbnbs around Norman and close by. We booked ours last week. There's still a ton. If you have a big group, you can get a house right on the lake because they get pretty pricey. But you can also get out away from it and save some money.
So we've never had and Ben, you can attest to this. We've never had a post tournament podcast winner on, right? We didn't go that route with the podcast. Not that we wouldn't. It's just we're more on the educating.
That's not true because we had Trent on.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I misspoke. But if there was ever a tournament where I do want to get the winner on, it's that tournament right there.
Yeah,
for the Special Operations Bass Anglers charity event, and that would be a really cool thing.
And for those that have fished it, in years past, first place also always gets something special. The first year we had, I'm going to call it a tomahawk. But we had special made tomahawks. Last year, we had some knives custom made for it. So, and they're not really to use. But I mean, I guess if you want to use them, you could. But we always have something like that to
I think
go
there's
along.
going to be a bald eagle there this year too, isn't there?
Yeah, the American Eagle Foundation. We met them at Red Crest and then talked to them again at the Classic, and they should be out with one of the bald eagles. So that's kind of cool. I'd really like to get the old flag on one of the boats and have the eagle on it as well.
I think that's possible.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe we can do that.
Yeah, we could probably make that.
That's the kind of stuff that lasts forever. That hardware and those memories, man. Like that money, obviously that goes away, but that's what I look forward to in these events is seeing somebody take home a memory that they'll never forget. Yeah.
Yep, Ben, what you got?
Not a whole lot. I'm sitting here listening. You guys made a lot of great points.
He's just got a bunch of bubble wrap.
Yeah, he's got bubble wrap.
He's just thinking about.
He's actually sitting on the bubble wrap.
325 feet of bubble wrap.
I could. You have to show him that picture.
I'll show.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going back to Missouri then or not because we are going for a couple weeks later in the month. So I may try to make it out because it's going to be a great event, and I'd love to be some fishing because I've actually never fished Norman, so it'd be a great opportunity to go out there. Low stakes, basically, in a way. I know it's a tournament, but it's not even like a club tournament where you want to beat your buddies, right? That we talked about earlier, just for that fun competition. So, it's going to be a good one. I know
I'm making Trey pre-fish for me, so that's basically all he's doing. So you can do this.
I fished Norman like 5 times, and I only went to catch tiny spotted bass. I didn't even care about anything else. It was just fun.
But you're right. 3 rods are, Alabama rig, maybe a glide bait, and then a Ned rig. That's all you need out.
Drop shot.
Yeah, gotta have drop shot.
What you should see the front of my boat right now.
Yeah, there's like 372 drop shot.
Listen, if you have a drop shot, a shaky head, a Ned rig, and some sort of top water, because I'm telling you,
they'll crush.
They will school at that time.
Yeah.
Especially,
and there is a warm water discharge on Norman.
I've never fished it.
No, but there is one.
Yeah, there is one. There used to be 2.
Mm.
They shut the one down, I believe. But yeah, it'll be a fun time.
And what ramps it out of?
At Queen's Landing.
Queen's Landing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll be there. I mean, the team will be there probably about 4:30 in the morning. And then blast off's going to be safe light. Safe light is 30 minutes before sunrise. Just so everybody knows that.
So that time of year. You're probably looking at 6:40.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Somewhere around 6:45.
So, and when we blast you off, if you're not ready, hate it for you. we're gonna keep on rolling.
Last question about the tournament before we wrap this thing up. What happens if Friday gets canceled?
If Friday gets canceled, it gets moved to Saturday.
Okay, so that's important for everybody to understand, right? That is Veterans Day weekend. Friday is the 10th. Saturday is the 11th. If it gets rolled, they'll know how.
We will post it all on social media.
Okay.
And then yeah, we'll just post it on social media.
Okay, so
just be looking at the page. If you've if you've pre-registered, sorry, if you've pre-registered, we will I'll message you that way.
Okay.
So yeah, last year we actually had to cancel it, which I wish we wouldn't had, but
you made the right call.
Well, Friday night they said there was a small craft advisory for Saturday. Well, once that happens, we can't have anybody on there, and then I got there at 5 o'clock, and just in case anybody else showed up, a couple boats showed up, told me we weren't having it. It ended up being a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So
it happens.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. You got to make that call. Like you said, angler safety is number one.
Yeah. And I think I waited till like 8:30 or 9 to make that call.
Yeah.
But we have anglers from all over. We got guys from Florida that come up every year, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, South Carolina, Virginia. So I mean, if guys can make it from Pennsylvania, Texas, if they can make it from those spots and you're, within a couple hours, come on out and have some fun.
You know what would be crazy? If this is where KVD made his reappearance.
Could be. This could be his next tournament is going to be.
I don't know.
But I'm going to make some phone calls. He doesn't know it yet, but JT, you're getting a phone call.
Yeah.
He lives in Myrtle Beach. It's not too far away.
Yeah.
So
heck yeah.
And then with everybody else, it's going to be a good time. We're going to have fun. Well, most likely, I believe we'll have food there, whether it's some trucks or if we're making hot dogs and hamburgers, something like that for everybody. But yeah, I mean, just come on out. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a good time. If not for anything, you're helping a worthy cause. Yep.
Appreciate it, man.
Heck yeah. Thanks for talking about that. I know we've been talking about it quite a bit. And it's good to have, an organizer on there that kind of has ins and outs of it all. So tons of prizes, tons of good people, tons of good fellowship. Make sure you check that out if you can. Again, November 10th at Queen's Landing on Lake Norman, $100 entry fee per team. And it all goes to a great cause. So check that out in the links below. What you guys got anything else? We want to let him go ahead and plug it. Socials.
Plug it, man.
Yeah, plug your socials and make sure you shout out all those sponsors that help you do what you do.
Yeah. So on Facebook, Nick Kincaid Fishing. Same thing on Instagram. I don't have them other, TikToker things, but don't need them. But then also people that support me are the Fish Stick Custom Rods. Of course, Carolina Waters. Then you got Deep Creek Lures. I'm gonna forget some guys. Hold on. Wilkinson Chevrolet here in Sanford. Superior Distribution. 911 Custom Lures. Drop Zone Tackle. I'm missing some. I know I am.
Vector Hooks.
Vector Hooks. Yeah. Still use his stuff. He's got good stuff, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, is it this month or this week or something like that? It's 40% off. He's got his hooks.
Yeah, I think it's for the month because he's trying to break his record.
Yeah, he's trying to break his record. So go on there and do that. But if you go on Nick Kincaid Fishing, you can like and follow. I post a lot on there. I usually forget to post on Instagram, but I have a link. There's a picture on top there that has all the discounts. So if you guys want to go on there, if there's anything you need, just go on there. I think Deep Creek Lures, they give you the best discount. I think that I have on there is 25% off.
That's a lot.
So yeah, that's quite a bit. But yeah, just want to thank everybody and thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely.
Had a good time tonight, and maybe I can come back on after winning Norman.
That's right.
That's right. You go out there and win your own tournament, and then we'll have you on to talk about
He's going to win second place. Hey, folks, head on over to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code OneCast. You're going to save 20% through the entire month of October, and a lot of that money is going to go to that family in need. Ben, on your side of the house, you got anything?
He muted himself.
Okay. Pete, you want to close us out with our...
Hold on. Ben, you got anything? You unmuted and then muted.
He said no.
I know. Well, I was going to say no. I was good. I just appreciate Nick coming on here, and glad we're all able to help each other out.
Yep.
No, I appreciate everybody listening. And as always, check below the links. We'll have Nick on there. We'll have Carolina Waters as always. All the information about that giveaway is down there. Every week I have Special Operations back at Bass Anglers, FX3 Inc., Heroes Harvest, and Forest Glorious Outdoors. They're all great organizations. But right now we're going to focus on Special Operations Bass Anglers with their event coming up. So if you're able to make that, please do. And outside of that, help us continue to grow a culture of anglers helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.